Welcome back, lovelies. This is your number one fashion tutor, SBE Fashion Institute. In today's tutorial, we'll be continuing with our corset pattern drafting. If you haven't watched the part 1 yet, I'll leave the link in the description. Please make sure to watch that video first so that everything in this lesson will make sense. In part 1, we drafted the front pattern and placed the cap. And today we will be working on the back pattern, the yoke and the sleeve. So let's get started.
Okay, so now we are done with the drafting of the front. Yes, the drafting of the front. So I did not do any design on the hemline. It's because this is an open pattern. It's placed on fold, and I want a different style for the left and a different for the right. I will wait until I'm done tracing everything out, and then I'll open the pattern and draw the hemline I want. So now what we will do is we will trace this pattern on
The pattern paper for the back.
okay. So you see how I'm placing the front pattern on the back pattern. You see I came down by like 2 inches, but make sure that the front pattern is not uh, beyond, it's not too, like this line, the hip line is not beyond this paper. Okay, yes, so that at the end of the day, if you want to style your hemline, you will not have any problem with the back pattern. So you just have to make sure that you've left like 2 inches here, and well, half or 1 inch here is okay. So we want to hold it in place, so you can use your pins or the paper weight if you have. So with our tracing, we will trace these lines. So just watch it carefully. You will know exactly where I am tracing. The hip line, the center front. So we will trace that to get our center back. So we will leave this neckline and trace the shoulder line instead, but we will not trace it all the way to this side. We will trace the shoulder line to the neck width, and then from there we will trace the front shoulder line. So you also trace the corset length line, and the waistline. So instead of tracing the chest line, we will trace this new line instead. Okay, but you don't have to trace it all the way to this side. Just you want to know where that 0.5 inches sits, and then we can trace the side of the pattern too. Now with the armhole, we will not trace this curvy one. We will trace the straight one. This straight line. And then where this, you remember we divided this line into 2 when we got here, so you mark that point. So now we are done with the tracing. We can just take the front pattern off. I'll go ahead and make the lines visible. The waistline, corset length line, and the neck width, and the shoulder line. So this is where our armhole or our chest line is stopping. So you remember this 0.75 inches I said we should mark? Yes, so we will just connect. You can just use the straight side of the ruler or depending on the design you want for the back. I want mine to be a bit curvy. Okay. So now what we will do is, wait, let me make the center back so visible. Okay. Yeah, so what we will do is from the width of our neckline, we will go up. We'll go up by 1.5 inches. And then on the side, the armhole area, we'll go up by 1 inch. And then we connect these 2 points. So now from here, you can draw the neck of the back pattern. So with the back armhole, we came in by 0.5. But with the front armhole, we came in by 0.5. But with the back, we will not do that. We will just maintain this line. So we will connect these points straight to our new shoulder line for the back pattern. And then from this point, we will connect it to the armhole. Sorry, we will connect it to the chest line, this side. And let me make this line too visible. Okay, so now let's separate the yoke from the body of our corset. Usually with our corsets, we put tulle or the lace or a fashion fabric. We will put it on the corsets, okay, and we sometimes put zipper on it. So usually the corset becomes the base, okay, and the base should not be meeting right in the center back, okay. So we will mark 1.5 inches. It depends on how open you want your corset to be on the back, okay. And when you are lacing, in this case we are using 1.5, and this pattern is on fold, so it becomes 3 inches when we open the back of the pattern, okay. So when you are lacing the corset, you should make sure that the space in between the corset back should not be more or less than the 3 inches, okay. So if you want the lacing bar to meet right in the center of your back, then you don't have to take this 1.5 taken out, okay. You don't have to do that, just leave it like this, because this is your round bust circumference measurements, okay. That's your, sorry, your bust circumference measurements. So if you want that space in between the lacing bar, you can leave the 1.5. If you want it to be too open, 2 inches. If you don't want it to be too open, so you can just use 0.5 or 1 inch. So with mine, I'll be using 1.5. And on the waistline, just 0.5 is okay. On the corset line too, 0.5 is also okay. So now we can connect these points. Okay, so now the next thing we will do is to mark the size of the lacing bar. Okay, so we are doing all this before we draft the yoke, okay, or before we do the style for the yoke. And I'll show you why we are doing this first. So the size of the lacing bar I want is 2 inches. You can also use 1.5 inches. It depends on how you want it. Or sometimes the size of your eyelets too. But it should not be more than 2 inches, okay? Your lacing bar should not be more than 2 inches. Okay, so this is what I'm doing. I use usually I put the 10 mm Ridgeline boning in my lacing panel after using the Ridgeline 10 mm Ridgeline boning. I also put 10 mm plastic boning inside. So I mark. So for instance, let me indicate this here for you to understand why I prefer using 2 inches for my lacing bar. Okay, so I put bonings here in these two lines, and then the eyelets will be here. So usually I make sure that um, around I have about 4 eyelets on the waistline, okay, to help the cinching. Okay, so this is what I have. So this is why I use 2 inches for the lacing bar. Now the reason you have to do all this before styling your yoke, this is the reason, so that you will know exactly where your yoke is stopping or where the yoke is going to start from. Okay, we don't want to um style the yoke and now we'll be putting our lacing bar and the yoke will be somewhere here. Okay, yeah, so the yoke should, when you're attaching the yoke, it should start from here, this point, after the lacing bar. Okay, so with this pattern, I don't really want any keyhole for the back. I don't want any fancy design for the back. I just want the back to be closed. Okay, I want the yoke to be closed. So what we'll do is from this part, I'll just come up by 0.5 inches, or let's make it 1 inch instead. Sorry, 1 inch, and then I connect it to this part. Okay, so if you want to use a 0.5 too, you can go ahead and, okay, I think I prefer this because I don't want too much space on the back. So let's go with the 0.5 inches. Also, if you want to have a keyhole at the back, okay, you can just do it. But the most important thing is your yoke should stop here. Okay, it shouldn't be here, it shouldn't be here. Remember, all these parts, we'll be cutting all these parts out. So in the first place, this part is not part of your corset. It's not part of the back pattern. So the lacing bar will start from here, and then the corset mesh or the Java mesh will also be here. So if you want the keyhole back, or if you want to show skin, you can just do this. Okay, you can do this or even go higher. Yes, but this is what we are going for. Okay, so let me just make it visible. Okay, now this is what we have for the back pattern. Now let's go straight into drafting our hemline. So the next thing we will do is to draw the outline of your cap. Okay, you have to trace it. You know this pattern is full, so we have to trace it so that we will have that print on the paper on the other side of the pattern. So you see how I'm using my hand to support it. Yes, I want to get the perfect shape. Okay. Now we can go ahead and cut this pattern. So another thing we will also do is to draw the shape of the top too, but this time we will use the pencil first, and make sure that your pencil is long, okay, so that it can stand like this. So you see how I'm doing it. Mhm. So don't worry, you can just do any rough sketch. After that, you can use your curve to blend it very well. So this is what we have for the front. Okay, let me cut the neck out. But if you want an asymmetric neckline for this, you will open the pattern, draw the neckline you want before cutting it out. Okay, yes, just like you open it and draw the hemline before cutting it. Okay, so this is what we have. Now let's draw the hemline. As I said, this is the hemline we'll be using. So this is the front and this is the back. At this point, we can turn. So this is our corset length line. So whatever we are doing we have to make sure that the center of our corset is not too low or too high beyond this our corset length line. Okay. So on the side of the corset, looking at our hemline, this side is high, this side is low, and this side we also have an inverted V here. So when you look at it carefully, you realize that the V is here, it's like on the left side of the corset than on the right side. So this is the center of our corset. So what we will do is on the side we will come down on the length of the corsets from this side, we will just come down by 1 inch. And because this side is the right side is longer than the left side, we'll be coming down by 2 inches, or let's make it 2.5. That is the side of your corset. The center of your corset should not be this long. Okay. So now let's draw our curves. So this is what we are having. So just this is just guidelines. That's why I'm not making it deep. Okay. So from this point, we want to draw this inverted V. Okay. And remember, you'll be placing your skirt over it. Okay, that is if you'll be using this corset to sew a dress, you'll be placing a skirt over it. In this case, I'll be placing a skirt over it. So I don't want the inverted V to go high. I don't want it to be too much beyond this corset line. Okay. So on the corset line, I'll just go up by 1.5 inches. And you can tell that this V is open. Okay. So from the center, let's see, it's 2 inches. I think 2 inches is okay. Or let's make it 2.5. We can connect these points, and then from here we will connect it. Okay. So we don't want this side to be too sharp. So okay. So now I can make these lines visible. Okay, so you can do any design you want. Okay, just feel free, do any design you want. If you want this side to be, let's try and see if this side is a bit low. Let's see how that's also going to look. Okay, so let's go by this. So just feel free to style the hem of your corset anyhow you want. Okay. So after doing this, the next thing we will do is to place the front pattern on the back pattern, okay, and draw the hemline for the back pattern too. Let's cut this out first. Okay, so we can just tape this together with a masking tape. Okay. Okay. So okay. So after doing this, we will place. So this is the right side of the back pattern, and this is also the right side of the front pattern. So what we'll do is we'll place the wrong sides facing each other. So this is the wrong side of the front. So the wrong sides will face each other. Okay. So after placing it, you'd know that the shoulder of the back is longer than that of the front. That's fine. It's normal. This corset um, helps you when this way of drafting corsets helps you when your client is not around for fitting. Okay. So with this measurements, it will be perfect for your clients. Okay, so I'm just using the pins to hold it down. Remember, we have this because after cutting it, I think there's a little bit of space. So don't worry, just make sure that the measurements it's placed on well. Okay. Mhm. So now what we will do is we will mark the length of this side, the left side of our corset. We will mark it. We will transfer that length onto the back pattern, and we will do same here. We transfer that length onto the right side of the corset too. And also with the shoulder, this is what we will do after sewing. This is what we are going to get. Okay. We've not added any seam allowances, so you just fold it this way, and you realize that this side, like there's an SS, these 2 points are not meeting. So what you do is you mark, and then you mark this side too. So you do the same here. You'll mark, and then you'll mark on this side too. Okay, so now we can take the front pattern out. So first, we'll blend this neckline in. So you can just fold it since it's the same. And blend this neckline in. Now you can cut it off. So we had a little excess here too. Now the hemline of the back. So after tracing, this is what we got. Okay. Now, as I said, um, you should not tamper with the lacing bar. Okay. No matter the design you do on the back, you should make sure that it does not affect the lacing bar. The lacing bar should be as straight as possible. Okay. You don't want any situation where your lacing bar will be something like this. It's not professional. Okay, so this is the length of our corset. That's 4.5 away from the waistline. But with the back pattern, you don't want it to be that long. Okay, when you look at this, you think it's short. By the time you fit it, you realize that it's almost taking half of your butt. Okay, yes. So we will come up by 1.5. So now I'll connect these 2 points, and it should be straight. Okay, straight. So now after the lacing bar, you can do any design you want and connect it to this mark here. After the lacing bar, any design you want, and then you connect it to this point here, because this is where it's going to meet the front on the side. And you don't want to be stopping around here or here. That way, you realize that after your corset, you either have, after sewing the side, you either have shortage or you have excess. Okay. So same on this side too. Connect from this side after the lacing bar and then to this point. So now let's go ahead and do the design we want for the back. So you don't have to do all this if you are just going for the simple hemline for your corsets. So if you are going for something just like this shape, a canoe shape for your hemline, you don't have to be going through all this process. You just use half of the pattern, and if this is the length of your corset, you measure from the waistline to your new corset length. This is for the back, the center back. And then you minus like 1 inch from it and then use your curve to connect it. Okay, so that will be for the simple hemline. Yes, so we are doing all this because this is the design we want to achieve. This is the front and then this is the back. And the left side is different from the right side. Okay. Okay. So this is the design we are having for the back. So let me just highlight it so that you see it well. Okay, so this is the hemline we have for the back pattern. So we can go ahead and cut that one too. So this is what we have for the back pattern. And this is also what we have for the front pattern. Okay, so now we can go ahead and cut the hemline for the front two out. So I want us to take the cap off, okay, so that we can trace this side on the other side of the pattern. So be careful you are not cutting any part of your cap. Here's the masking tape, okay. So now let's trace this part. So before we do that, let's check whether the length of our yoke is okay. Okay, so what we'll do is, let me erase this line first. So when you place the cap on your pattern like this, what you do is this line. So from the center front to this side, we are getting 3.5 inches. Okay, so you mark that 3.5 inches here, and then you connect it to this point. So that's 3.5 inches from the center front. Okay, so now what you do is you measure the highest point of this cap. So when you look at this cap, you realize that this part is higher than this part. So we are getting 8 inches. You see, I did not use the tape measure this way because we slanted this side. Okay, so you use the highest point of the cap. You remember when we were drafting this cap? I have a drafting video of this cap on my channel, and I also leave the link below in the video so that you can watch that later. So after watching it, you understand this part. From the side front, we came in by 3 inches. So on that highest point of the cap, through these points, you measure, and then we are getting 8 inches. Okay, so what we'll do is we will write this 8 inches down. Now remember, our corset length, sorry, our shoulder to under bust measurement is 14 inches. Okay, and we didn't want any push up for the cap. So we added 0.5 and then we got 14.5. So what we will do is we will subtract this 8 inches from the 14.5 inches. So 14.5 minus 8 inches. Then we have 6.5. So the length of our yoke should be 6.5. So you measure that also from the highest point of the shoulder. Okay. Yeah, so this is where our 6.5 is. So meaning we got this curve correct. So now you can just go ahead and use your curve to draw the line well. Okay. So we will use our tracing wheel to trace this line. Okay. Okay. So after doing that, you can just go ahead and make this line to visible. Okay. So this is what we have. Now the next thing we will do is this is a plunge V neckline corset, okay? A plunge V. If you want the bust bridge if you want to have the cross bust bridge, no need to do this step we're about to do. So what you do is before you cast this yoke out, you put an extra paper under it. So we'll be tracing this area. So you put paper under it. So when we are attaching the yoke to this to the body of the corset, what we do is we will measure the length of the plunge we want. So with my pattern, I'll be using 3 inches. So 3 inches is basically the standard. Okay. Yes, you don't have to do more than the 3 inches. You don't want to be showing too much of your mid bust or in between your breast. So this is what we want. 3 inches. You can also make it 2 inches or 2.5, but it shouldn't be below the 3 inches. So now what we'll do is we'll connect these points, and now we will trace this part out, just this middle part. Okay. So now I can take the paper off. So now the next thing we do is to separate the yoke from the body. So though we want a plunge V neckline, we will not be cutting the V on this pattern, okay? We will not be cutting the V. So if this is the V, we will not be cutting this part out of the pattern, okay? We will do the V when sewing the corset. So I also have a video of how to sew your corsets on my channel, and I'm going to leave a link to that video in the description area so that you can also watch that video after this. So now let's go ahead and cut the yoke off. Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll tape these two together, okay? Yes, so what we'll do is we will use this pattern to cut the yoke, and then after sewing the body of our corset, we'll put the yoke on like this, and then we'll hand stitch it, okay? So you add just ½ inch allowance to this area. This side you just add half and then half. So with this side you can just leave it like that. Don't add any allowance, you just add the allowance to this side and then this side. And now you can go ahead and cut this part off. So this is our back. So as you can see, the sides are meeting up very well, okay? Same as this side. And then our cup. So this is what we have. Our nicely drafted corset pattern. Okay, so this is what we have. Okay, so let me place it side by side so that you see it well. So this is our neatly drafted corset pattern. May outro see. So we are in the video. So now let's move straight to drafting the sleeve of our pattern. So the first thing we will do is to measure the armhole circumference. Okay, with this type of pattern making, you will not use your client's armhole measurements to draft the sleeve. You will use the armhole circumference of the yoke to draft the sleeve. So let's take the measurements. So 7.5 the front pattern, and you transfer that straight to the back and continue with the measurement taken. So we have 15.25 for the armhole circumference, 15.25. So let's write that down, 15.25. So if you remember, these are the measurements we'll be using for the sleeve. We have our sleeve length of 25 inches, shoulder to elbow 15 inches, biceps 14 inches, elbow circumference 12 inches, and the wrist circumference, that's 10 inches. And now we have the armhole circumference of 15.25 inches. So the first thing we will do is to mark a starting line. So just mark a straight line from this side and label it as your shoulder line. Now from the shoulder line, we will mark the sleeve length as 25 inches. We also mark the shoulder to elbow, that's 15 inches. So let's connect the points. So this is our sleeve length, shoulder to elbow. So the next thing we will do is to mark the bicep line. And the standard measurement for the bicep is 4 inches from the shoulder line. So you measure 4 inches down. And then we connect the points. And the next thing we will do is to divide this part into two. So from the shoulder line to the bicep line is 4 inches. So we divide it into two and then we'll get 2 inches. So this is the biceps line. Let's connect these ones. So now on this line, we will impute our cup width measurements. Okay, so if you don't have a cup width measurements, what you can do is to divide your bust circumference by 6 and then you add 1.5 inches. So the bust circumference we have is, or we used for this pattern, is 40 inches. So what we'll do is divide 40 by 6, then we are getting 6.6. So plus 1.5, that's 8.1. So we can just use 8 inches. So from the shoulder line, we will place the tape measure like this and mark the 8 inches. So we'll connect that 8 inches to the shoulder line. Now on this slanted line, we will place our tape measure on it and divide it into 2. This is what we have. And then from that point, we also come down by 0.5 inches and go up by 0.5 inches as well. So the next thing we will do is to use our curve to connect these points. So we will first connect from the shoulder to this point, and from this point to this point. And we will also connect from the shoulder to this point. And then from this point to this point. Okay, so we can you can just use your pencil to blend this part out. So the reason why we are doing this is because if you remember from the drafting of the yoke, on this side, on the front, we came in by 0.5, and then with the back we did not come in at all. Okay, so this, the one here, this curve, the curve on top becomes the armhole area for the back yoke. Okay, and the one, this curvy one, will be used for this side. So this pattern is on fold. Okay, this pattern is on fold. So this side, this curve, the one below, becomes the front, and this curve will become the back. So after cutting the sleeve, when we are attaching it to the yoke, what we will do is this side of the sleeve will be placed here. This side of the sleeve will be placed here, and the back sleeve will also be attached to this part. Now let's go ahead and impute the biceps measurements, and our biceps measurement is 14 inches. So because this pattern is on fold, we will divide it by 2, and we have 7 inches. So before we continue, let's measure this curve to see whether we will get our around armhole circumference. So the armhole circumference, we got 15.25. So let's divide the 15.25 by 2. Now let's just use the tape measure. So 15.25. Because we are getting decimals, that's why I want us to use the tape measure. So that we use the mark on the tape measure to measure the armhole. Okay. Okay, so this is where our armhole circumference is. So now what we will do is to connect these points, these 2 points. Now let's impute our our around elbow circumference, and our around elbow circumference is 12 inches. So 12 inches divided by 2, that's 6 inches. And the wrist circumference, we are using 10 inches, so 10 divided by 2, that's 5 inches. Now let's connect these points. When you're drafting the sleeve, no matter how the shape comes out, okay, just go ahead and connect the points, because you know some of us, we have more flesh around our biceps. Okay, so with anyhow you get the shape of your sleeve, don't worry, it's correct. Just go ahead and do it. Okay, so this is it for our sleeve. So you can just go ahead and cut the sleeve out. So before we do that, you realize that after cross-checking our armhole circumference, this is what we got. So we'll connect this scale well. Now let's continue cutting our pattern out. So the first thing you will do is to cut the armhole curve for the back. So you cut the back. So now you open the pattern and cut the front curve too. So now this becomes the front of our sleeve and the back. So this is how we will do it. So for instance, if you are sewing your corset and then if you've joined the neck of the shoulder like this is how you place the sleeve. You see the back pattern is here and the front pattern is here, and this is also the back of the sleeve and the front of the sleeve. So you attach it this way. Okay, yes, so it will not be going like this, like the back should not be here. That is why you have to make sure that you've named all your patterns, okay, so that you don't get confused when you're sewing. So it will come this way. Yeah, so that's it for the sleeve drafting.
Thank you so much for staying with me to the end of this corset pattern drafting series. I hope everything has been clear and helpful. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you try this draft, please tag me on my Instagram handle at wiz.couture. The sewing tutorial is already uploaded on my channel. You can check that out. Bye!